we on.
Hey, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom Makam, which is peace unto you all. Anachna waha ebar sha'ala. Hey, we the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and his life owners. Nachamatam, Kayah, Malakat Hashemayim, Kwarab. Repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, we're going to give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Radash. While double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, that they're pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
And so pretty much going into the tribes. All right, we pretty much went into, I believe it was Simeon last time. We're going into Levi now, and we're going to start with Genesis, the 49th chapter and the first verse.
This is the book of Genesis 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Mm-hmm. So pretty much, reading in Genesis 49, it pretty much highlights the characteristics and the traits and the attributes about essentially what will be happening to the tribes and how we could identify, the tribes today.
Mm-hmm. So skipping down, Genesis 49 and 5. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations.
Mm-hmm. So it says Simeon, which is Shamaiwan. Simeon is the so-called Dominicans, and it says in Levi, which is Loyah, which is who we're touching on today. It says our brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. And when you talk about these two specific tribes, Simeon is heavy into the Santeria, and then you got Levi who is heavy into the Voodoo. That's why it says instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. You keep going.
Yeah, I want to add too, because just going into the backdrop of why it was written, because when you go into Genesis the 49th chapter, or sorry, Genesis the 34th chapter, dealing with when the Hamites had raped pretty much the sister of the tribes, I believe her name was Dinah. Just going over that quick backstory, they was trying to marry into Israel. And so what happened was, they had convinced them Hamites to circumcise themselves. And while they were, sore from the circumcisions, Simeon and Levi went in and pretty much, killed all of them, which, caused Jacob, a lot of grief because he was, afraid they was going to retaliate. But that's another reason why they said, the instruments of cruelty are in their habitations, because they slew somebody.
Mm-hmm. Verse 6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall.
Right, pretty much, going into the pretty much what a priest quoted, it says, in their anger they slew a man. Could you get Genesis 34 and 25?
This is Genesis 34 and verse 35 or 25.
Yeah, 25.
Block you. 25, it says, and it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males.
Pretty much going into the excerpt that priest quoted, because I believe the guy's name was Shakam. He was a Hamite, and pretty much he went in unto Dinah, and defiled her. So Simeon and Levi, they pretty much plotted against him. And they told him to get circumcised, so that they can pretty much come upon them in that city. Mm-hmm. Going back into Genesis 49 and verse 6.
Want me to read it again?
Yeah.
This is Genesis 49 and verse 6. It says, O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united, for in man and in their self-will they dig down a wall.
Mm-hmm.
It says, cursed be their anger, it's cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel.
You're Your mic kind of like going in and out, but it says I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Pretty much, as we're gonna get, Lord's willing, and some articles. Pretty much, when you look at Simeon and Levi, when you look at how they live, ultimately they're divided. They don't really deal with each other like that. When you go into the island of Hispaniola, on the right side, I believe it's the so-called Haitians, and then on the left side you got the so-called Dominicans. Pretty much they're divided.
Con, which also touches on that hatred between the northern and southern kingdom as well.
hmm Baba Kushak, could you go to verse 5 and click on Levi, because I want to touch on the characters and what makes up the name.
Con.
So it says law Yah, and this is ultimately where they get the term for law from, because when you go into Levi's duty, essentially he served as the lawyer or the mediator, all right, for the nation of Yasha Allah, Israel. Could you scroll down? And it says right there, it says joined to. It will be joined unto me. The law part goes into how they're joined. The Yah part is to me, which pretty much is the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. So could you also get the definition, common definition of Merriam-Webster for law?
Con.
Con, if I could add real quick too, because like you said, Levi served, Levi served as the priest, all right, for the tribes. Because when you go into the ancient maps of how the Lord divided up the tribes of Israel, you will see that all the nations, it's like all the tribes had lands except Levi. So just get that real quick. This is Deuteronomy 18:1. It says the priest, the Levites, and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part or nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire in his inheritance, because the instead of Israel, it's like instead of Levi having their own land, their portion was the duties of the priesthood for the tribe. So they had a direct relationship with Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. So when you will see the Levites, they were scattered amongst the tribes, being the like the brother said, the mediator between the different tribes and Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. So they had a very heavy duty, dealing with the communication between the Lord and his people. This is why when you see like Moses and Aaron, Aaron, was a Levite. I believe was Moses. Moses was a Levi too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were that mouthpiece that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua was like Yahweh used for the nation of Israel when we was in Egypt and in the wilderness, man. Just showing that example. And there was that just giving you a prelude to the priesthood that was going to be set up in the heavens, but we had on earth.
Mm-hmm. Baba Kushak, could you go back to the name?
Con.
Because I wanted to land back on Priest Point, but you scroll up, Baba Kushak. Because when you go into it, it says the La, in which in Hebrew, each letter, it pretty much represents a pretty much a duty, a function, or it has a word that corresponds with it. When you look at the La, it looks like a staff, so the La goes into La Mad, which represents a staff. And then when you talk about a staff, all right, another word that's associated with a staff is a yoke. So a yoke attaches things, all right. So you got a yoke, then you got the Wa, which represents and to add, so the pretty much the yoke adds, so if something is yoked, it means that it's gonna be fit for a certain service, so Levi's duty service was unto the Lord, so that's why it goes into law Yah, because the law pretty much that's what joins. So just going into that point, could we go back to that definition, and then we'll hop into Deuteronomy 33.
Con.
So it
This is a
said,
definition for law.
mm-hmm.
Oh, you got it.
It says law, because this term actually derives from the name Levi or Lord Yah, but it says law. It says a binding custom, and then in Levi's name it was joined unto. If something is joined, it's bind. But it says a binding custom or practice of a community. All right, and the community, will be the nation of Israel. It says a rule or of conduct or action prescribed. See prescribed since 1A or formally recognized as binding or enforced by controlling authority. and it says the whole body of such customs, practices, or rules, and pretty much, to reiterate, Levi's duty was to join the rest of the nation unto the Lord. So could we also get could we go ahead and go to Deuteronomy 33? And we
God, man,
started.
make a quick point.
Mhm.
If I may. Like you said, it was Levi's duty, right, to be that mouthpiece, right? It was Levi's duty as the priesthood, right, to keep the connection between Israel, right, and Yahweh Bashem El Shai. And now with us serving as those priests, we're tasked with that same duty,
Yep.
right? This is Ephesians chapter 6. So like it popped up in the NLT. So Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 20, it says, "For which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak." Now, when you look up this word ambassador, it's Strong's G 4243. It says to be older, and then going to the root word, it says elder of age among the Jews, members of the great council or Sanhedrin, because in early times the rulers of the people, judges, etc., were selected from elderly men, right? It says the New Testament uses the term bishop, elders, and presbyters interchangeably, right? So we're set before our nation, right, as ambassadors of Yahweh Bashem El Shai to promote righteousness, right, to promote the ways of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Con. Hey, may I get a precept?
Oh, you got it, bro.
Con, this is Ezekiel 44 and 15. So on the top it says ordinances for the Levites. So it says, but the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister unto me, and they shall stand before me to offer unto me the fat and the blood, saith the Lord power. So pretty much the Levites, they took care of the duties, in the temple. But it says, verse 16, they shall enter into my sanctuary, and they shall come near to my table to minister unto me, and they shall keep my charge. So they're just like brother was saying, they're pretty much I guess they sort of like the mediator, right, between the people and the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 17.
Oh, go ahead, Slaki.
Oh, Slakia. Let me actually skip down. There's a point I wanted to make right here. Right here, verse 23. 23. It says, and they shall teach my people the differences between the holy and the profane, unclean and the clean. So they dealt with the law, to tell what is the right way to go, right? It says, and in controversy they shall stand in judgment, right? And they shall judge it according to my judgments. So they knew the law. They knew how to judge according to the law. It says, and they shall keep my laws and my statutes and all my assemblies, and they shall hallow my Sabbaths. So that was pretty much the point. Just adding to y'all brothers.
Because like I said, man, the priests had a heavy duty. As I say, they did the sacrifices. They were that communication. I wanted to just go into the example of the sacrifice that they was doing, because like I said, when Israel will go off, they will have to go to the priest to have that sin offering be presented to the Lord. So I just want to grab that real quick. So this is Leviticus 14 and 11. It says, and the priest shall make him clean. And the priest that maketh him clean shall present the man that is to be made clean and those things before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall take one of the lamb and offer him for a trespass offering and the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he shall kill the sin offering, and in the burnt offering in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest's, so is the trespass offering. It is most holy. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of his right ear of him that is to be clean, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it on the palm of his left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. And the rest of the oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the tip of his right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, upon the blood of the trespass offering. And the remnant of the oil that is in the priest's hand shall he pour upon the head of him to be cleansed, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord. And the priest shall offer the sin offering and make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed from his uncleanness, and afterward he shall kill the burnt offering, and the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the meat offering upon the altar, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, and he shall be clean. All right, so just showing you the importance of the duty that the priest had,
Mm-hmm.
and as we get into the lesson, we understand how and why we see the so-called Haitians or the Levites, all right, why they're in the position they are now. Okay, because like I said, they held a heavy duty, all right, as far as what their role was back then. But as Atazamam read earlier in the Ephesians, now that duty has been placed upon all of Israel. Okay, because what Yahushua sacrifice did was open up the role for all Israel to become priests, because the priesthood on the earth was a prelude to the priesthood in heaven. So what the Most High was having Moses and Aaron do, all right, and Aaron's sons, was pretty much established the way for us to have it to where we were going to, we're going to see how it was in the heavens, man, in the spiritual world, But you got your one.
Con, can we hop to Deuteronomy 33?
Con. Deuteronomy 33.
Verse 8.
Right here. Yeah, verse 8. It says, and of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One.
Right, because essentially, Levi, again, they had the duties of the Levitical priesthood, and they pretty much, did the services for the Lord, going into the Thummim and the Urim.
Con, if I may add too, like that would be like the communication that they had with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, whom, continuing on, verse 8, it says, whom thou didst prove at Massa, and with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah.
Right, and pretty much, that's going into, where Levi was pretty much fighting with the French. And I believe they still paying like taxes, or, they have like some type of fees. They're still paying to the French. I think that was back in like the 1800s or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's going to stay like that until the Lord delivers, because the main reason that's like that, because Esau is still salty for them slave rebellions that, Levi was doing against them.
Continuing on, verse 9, it says, who said unto his father and to his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children, for they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. Verse 10, they shall teach Jacob thy judgments and Israel thy laws. They shall put incense before thee and whole burnt sacrifice upon thine altar.
Right, because pretty much going into, what we was going into, they pretty much joined the rest of the nation of Israel, to the Lord. Let me get this in the NLT. And it says, they teach your regulations to Jacob, the 12 tribes. It says, they give your instructions to Israel. They present incense before you and offer whole burnt offerings on the altar. And when we got the common definition for law, all right, it said that it had binding customs that binded, pretty much the common people, all right, to the controlling authority, who is the Lord. Right there, it says a binding custom or practice of a community, a rule or conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by controlling authority. And pretty much we got that example. I think that was Leviticus 14, to where somebody came for a wave offering. It had in so many words, it had the ear, the thumb, the great toe. Pretty much that was the prescribed action, for a specific situation.
Yeah, because the specific sacrifices had, specific instructions for them to do. And if they were done wrong, all right, that angered the Lord. Like, for example, you had I believe it was Aaron's sons. They when performing the sacrifice, they did it wrong, and the Lord killed both of them. And you had Eli, his sons. You know, his sons were wicked too. They weren't, you know, following the instructions the Lord had told them, and the Lord destroyed them as well. You know, so that's what I say. Levi had a heavy role in Israel, man.
Con. Going back, Deuteronomy 33 in verse 11, it says, "Bless the Lord, his substance."
That was
And
pretty much it, bro.
okay, con.
In Deuteronomy. Was you gonna hop to the that one article?
Which one you want to?
Let's go to the one with the wiki dealing with the land, since you want spoke on Hispaniola.
Con. So it's talking about slavery times.
The Wikipedia page.
Oh, the Wikipedia Slovakia. Yeah. Right here.
Yep. We just read.
So it says this is from Wikipedia. It says Dominican Republic and Haiti relations. So it says the Dominican Republic Haiti relations are the diplomatic relations between the nations of Dominican Republic and Haiti. Relations have long been hostile due to substantial ethnic and cultural differences. It really is not ethnic; it's really, you know, tribal. But at the same time, you know, this is all the curses, you know, and also prophecy.
Kind, as well as Esau's influence that helped fuel that hatred too.
Right. It says historical conflicts, territorial disputes. You know, as the brother Yuan mentioned. It says, and sharing the island of Hispaniola, part of the Greater Antilles archipelago in the Caribbean region. It says the living standards of the Dominican Republic are considerably higher than those in Haiti. Yeah, and you see that. You know, brothers just mentioned, you know, how they're paying reparations to France. That left Haiti pretty much in this, like, pretty much in a pit to where they can't really get out of it. You know, you see the standards of living or the quality of life in Haiti is way drastically less than DR.
Right, and to add to you, Yeshaya, when you look up like how it is over there, like they're extremely poor to the point to where the majority of, you know, children being raised to adults, they don't know how to read or write. You know, the jobs that they do work can barely provide for them, so they're over there eating what's the shit called, mud pies, which is like dirt and shit mixed together. You know, they have to, you know, pretty much, you know, help each other out, which just shows you they're under the curses, man.
It says the economy of the Dominican Republic is 10 times larger than that of Haiti. The migration of impoverished Haitians and historical differences have contributed to long-standing conflicts. It says the island of Hispaniola was the site of the first permanent European settlement in the Americas. The Captaincy General of Santo Domingo, established in 1493 by Spain, the Spanish Empire controlled the entire island from the 1490s until the 17th century. Due to its strategic location, British and French pirates began establishing bases on the western side of the island. Battles began during colonial times and developed into constant conflicts between the European powers. Eventually, the island was divided in 1697, with Spain controlling the eastern side and France controlling the western side.
So just showing you how Esau pretty much split the island up. Because real quick, did you grab that Deuteronomy 28 dealing with the nation shall come from far, and dealing with the tongue we didn't understand?
Kind of could grab it.
You can read it, Atazawam.
Okay, Khan.
Where was it at?
Deuteronomy 28:49.
Okay, Khan.
You got it.
So, Deuteronomy 28:49, it says, Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth. as swift as the eagle flieth,
Mm-hmm.
a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Right. Now we understand that this was talking about the Edomites because when you read the history, it was talking about that how the pretty much it started with the Spanish. They came over here because they sought that land of Haiti because before Haiti was what it was now, that land was a rich land. You know, as we're gonna get into in a minute, but Esau, like the thief he is, all right, sought to take control of that land. So it started with the Spanish, and as I said, that swift as the eagle flies was an indicator to show you this was talking about the Edomites, the so-called white man, because you look at the symbol of Esau, he always uses that eagle, all right, as his symbol for whatever nation he calls himself under, English, Spanish, French, whatever. He always has that eagle. All right, just showing you that, and it says as swift as an eagle, so it took it quick. It says, "In a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand." All right, which is why you see, you know, dealing with Levi. All right, they got took over mainly by the French, which is why you see them speaking Creole, which is pretty much a mixture between French and what is it Haitian.
It's like a broken French.
Con. But yeah, but it's derived from French, which shows you
Mm-hmm.
that's the language of their conquerors.
Mm-hmm.
As well as Simeon. They speak the language of their oppressors too, which is the Spanish. So just showing you that this curse, it fell upon our people over there, man.
God. Verse 50, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Right, because as we know, it was a fierce slavery that took place over there in Haiti, and they didn't, discriminate on the elderly or the young. And as we were talking about, man, Esau put hell upon those Haitians over there, man. All right, and as you see, they raped, robbed, and pillaged that land. As we're gonna get into the next verse before we go back.
Mm-hmm.
God. Verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kin, or pardon me, thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
Right. So Esau raped, robbed, and pillaged that land until it was nothing left. All right. So real quick, could we go back to that one article that you showed before, Yeshaya, with the dealing with the name of Haiti? It's proven
Con.
that. Then you can break up there. Y'all can get that.
So this is as how Haiti got its name. A reminder this Columbus Day. You want to read it? You want me to read it for you?
I go into it. It says,
Con.
before Columbus' arrival, Haiti had been known by a few names. It says Haiti by the native population. How you say that? Quick, Keskeya.
Yeah,
To,
yeah.
to the people on surrounding islands, Bohio as well. Haiti comes from the Taino, meaning flower of highland, which is more commonly translated as mountainous land, which it will be more similar to mountainous land, you see, because when you go into the Haiti, you can kind of hear Haiti in it as well, but the Haiti is a Taino word, in which Taino also goes into good people, but they spoke a broken form of Hebrew, and Haiti goes into the AY is actually a IY, and it will be I, and the I means a heap or a ruinous heap, and then it says the second I will be a AH, all right, and then it will be that T will be a Tha, and the last I will be a Ya, and it will be I Ayat Ya, which means ruin heap with me, and pretty much you can hear the similarity it has in the actual name for Levi, because Levi means join unto me, all right, and then Aidi means ruin heap with me. And I want to get a quick precept just going into that, because it came at a certain point in time to where we all fell away. But this is Jeremiah Yaramia chapter 17 and verse 4, and it says, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not." for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. And like we got in Genesis, the 49th chapter, pretty much, or excuse me, Deuteronomy 33, pretty much where Levi was at war with the French. They're still paying reparations to this day. But pretty much going to the point, it said Haiti, again, that's Ayatya, which goes into a ruin heap with me, because at that point in time, Levi was going off,
Mm-hmm. And also, that's a nomen omen because you said it means a ruinous heat. When you
Mm-hmm.
look at the land of Haiti today, that's exactly what it looks like after all the decimation that was done through, Esau, as well as the different, judgments that were sent from the Lord dealing with the hurricanes and that earthquake. Haiti never recovered from those different things, and Esau, with all this money that he's making off of the Haitians, he never really used that money to aid in the rebuilding of that land. All right, he's letting those Levites over there suffer.
Yep, it's personal.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we can
I
go back.
got something to
Oh, go ahead.
add to that too, because it mentions right there that word Haiti, right, which pretty much means mountainous land, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says also, like, go ahead.
Mountainous land, pretty much a ruinous heap with me. Like a heap is like a mound or a mountain.
Because I know I'm gonna share this real quick. Pretty much right here's the map, right? And you see in between it's like nothing but like mountain ranges right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much like the divide, what divides the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Pretty much that's pretty much like the dividing, like I can't even put it to words. Pretty much that's pretty much was dividing both the tribes in that land. So I guess that's why they called it Haiti.
Kind of going into that mountainous land, because pretty much on that left side, that looks to be Haiti, and that's pretty much where Levi was dwelling at.
Mm-hmm.
We can go back to that Wikipedia page just a little bit more on what Esau, was doing in the land.
So going back, it says, let me see. Down here it says the distinction between the colonies was accentuated by different settlement patterns. Spain developed a settler-based society with a white and mixed race majority, while the French brought masses of African slaves to their side of the island. France imported nearly 10 times as many slaves, creating a divergent population in their colony. These historical events led to Dominicans and Haitians becoming culturally and ethically different groups.
Right, which is why we said earlier that Esau helped contribute to that hate between the tribes, because you have the Dominicans or the Simeonites, they talk shit heavily about the Haitians. All right, they have a word, what they call them, I believe is mestizo. I don't really know how to say Mestizo.
Oh yeah, mestizo.
Yeah, mestizo or mulatto, because it's Esau intermingled with a lot of Levi over there, so you got a lot of tears over there, and then you could look it up. I don't know the word, but they have a word that they call Haitians, and when you go into the meaning of the word, it means pig. So it's that hatred's real over there, And like I said, it's a lot of tears, over there, because Esau did a lot of and that's on both sides, and Simeon and Levi, because with that slave trade, they was popping them women over there, man. So it's tears in all the tribes, but the what they call the mulattoes or the mestizos. All right, that's where that comes from, okay, because of the colonization that Esau was doing over there.
Mm-hmm. It says, continuing on, it says during the start of the 19th century, Haiti became independent from France after a series of slave revolts in 1804.
Right, and we know different ones, like dealing with that Amistad. That's a good movie for brothers that want to look into that. which is many other ones they don't talk about, but Amistad is one of the popular ones that Esau, he publicized.
Mm-hmm. What was that one movie where they pretty much slayed all the farm owners? I forgot what it was called. You know about it, Yawam?
La.
I forgot the name of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, it says afterwards the Spanish colony of Santo Domingo, the predecessor of the Dominican Republic, also became independent from Spain in 1821 after more than 300 years of Spanish control.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, since 1804, many wars, massacres, border disputes, and standoffs have occurred between the two countries. Haiti would eventually become the poorest country in the region, while the Dominican Republic developed into one of the largest economies of Latin America.
Right, and this is done on purpose because Esau never really got over the fact of how Haiti won their independence. All right, so could we get the one in the curses about the head becoming the tail? Wanting to go to the enemy for the one of all things, because the fact that it said that Haiti is the poorest country, one of the poorest countries in the region. All right, we got to understand exactly how that proves one of the ways that proves that's the curses that fell upon Jake, man. You know, trying to get this in that Revelation 2. But whoever got it, y'all can read it.
God, this is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 44. It says, I start at verse 43, and it says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
Right, because like I said, man, when Esau got into that land, he pretty much colonized the land, for his liking. And as they were, pretty much, going into that slave trade, them Levites rebelled, and so the byproduct of them rebelling like that, all right, Esau gave them their independence, but in the same breath, pretty much damned them, because since then, all right, they're the poorest country, well, one of the poorest countries. All right, they're constantly, being, pillaged, and if they try to flee, over to America, they send them right back. They don't even let them, come over here as refugees, man. Like you have that famous story of the little boy. I think his name was like Elion or something like that. Got over here on that boat, which they had to, be on that boat for a long time. And the moment they touch the shores of California, they get sent right back. Esau he will not give any aid to Levi, man, to show you the hatred because of the slave revolts.
Mm-hmm.
Deuteronomy 28 and 44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Right, because when you go into it, all right, Haiti is pretty much, it was pretty much financed through slavery, all right, and also they're not financed through slavery. They were pretty much using slavery as a means to make money off of them, and then once they won their independence, them trying to seek aid, America pretty much has a stronghold over them over there. They're financed by the World Bank, the IDB, the Inter-America Bank, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So, hey, Esau pretty much has a foothold on them Haitians over there, man. So it's almost impossible for them to pretty much get their foot above, their head above water, man, because Esau will not let his foot off their neck, man.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that movie you quoted was Emancipation.
Mm.
The one Will
Yeah, I
Smith?
believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Con. But yeah, so that was it on that. So
Priest, did you want to make mention of the Clintons?
oh yeah, go ahead, bro. You go ahead. You got it.
Khan, just making mention of how these devils have advanced, the affliction on Levi. After the 2010 earthquake, the Clintons, they were responsible with assisting Haiti's recovery through the Clinton Foundation. But there were evidence and things that came out that the Clinton Foundation had diverted aid meant for Haiti's reconstruction.
Mm.
And then you go into because I'm just looking on the AI overview. I looked up why does Haiti not like the Clintons, and it goes into also the Clintons' approach to foreign aid, focusing on attracting foreign investments and creating a business-friendly environment, has been viewed by some as prioritizing corporate interests over the immediate needs of Haitian people. So basically, they were just using this as an opportunity to make a dollar.
Oh yeah.
Instead of actually, advancing Haiti's economy. They pretty much had the money that was used to, rebuild and, forward themselves, but that money went nowhere. So you
Also,
pretty much have your entire economy knocked out with no rebuilding.
and to add to that too, during a lot that chaos that occurred through from that earthquake, like I said, they have that body count, but that body count is a rough estimate because they don't really know how many people really died during that time. And what came out, what the Clintons also was doing, was they was abducting a lot of children. So there's a lot of children that pretty much got trafficked during that time because nobody could really tell what was going on. That's why, like you mentioned, the Clintons are hated by them Levites over there, man, because they did a lot of nasty work. Especially Hillary. She
Mm-hmm.
prides herself as being a humanitarian, but when you actually go into the nefarious things that she's done, she's hated in a lot of places, and a lot of that stuff is due to the Edomites pretty much, robbing, stealing, killing, which is their nature. John 10 and 10. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, I got something for y'all. It says Haitians detained 10 Americans accused of kidnapping 33 children.
See?
This is 2010, right here.
Mm-mm-mm.
So, and these are just the ones that got caught.
Exactly. These are the nobodies because, like I said, man, the people on top, like I say, hit the Clintons. They're what's the word? They're a scion, SCION, of one of the elite banking families. I want to say it was the Rockefellers. They changed their names. All right, the Clintons, they're related to the bankers. They're just a lower family from them. So that to show you, these are the people they let get caught, but they're never gonna actually detain the main ones doing this. Because you already know within them emails that Hillary Clinton was supposed to get exposed for a few years back. That was in there
Mm-hmm.
to show you the nasty work of the devil, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Esau pretty much come in with like the humanitarian mission, what they call them, missionaries.
Missionary. Mm-hmm.
They'll come in and supposedly bring aid, but really they be doing little things behind the scenes, like this, kidnapping kids. What kind of shit is this? And it's all for the organs, because they know that they need Jake organs.
Yep.
These top elite. But anyway,
Since we speaking on this, brother has something else real quick before I bring this out.
blah.
All right, so since the brother brought up, the thing with the earthquake, we wanted to touch on the fact of how part of the reason, of the destitution that happened because of that earthquake. When you go into the the things that happened to Haiti dealing with the natural disasters, Shai, can you pull up how many major hurricanes have hit Haiti?
Con.
See if they put the time period beside it. Because the main reason why these things happen to that land over there, because like we made mention of earlier, Haiti, all right, that's the land of where the Levites are today, all right. And one of the main reasons why these things keep occurring is because they're into all manners of wickedness, dealing with, as the brother Yawan was going into earlier, dealing with Deuteronomy, not Deuteronomy, Genesis 49, the instruments of the cruelty, dealing with that voodoo, So dealing with that earthquake that Tazwan mentioned and these hurricanes, this hits these major disasters constantly hit Haiti because of the wickedness that's going on in them lands. Real quick, could you get Amos 3 and 7?
If I can add too, priest is heavy too, because it's like the Lord is just tearing it down, but
Mm-hmm.
not enough to the point where it's just all the way through. Like it's
Right.
just enough to where Levi will try to make progress, and the Lord just shut that shit down.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Not 3-7. Go up to 6, Salakia.
Okay. This is Amos 3 and 6. It says, "Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid?
Mm-hmm.
Shall there be evil in the city, and the Lord hath not done it?"
Right. And this is why we know that everything that's happening to Levi is done for a reason. All right. That major earthquake that Haiti never recovered from. All right. These different hurricanes, and even dealing over here in America, when Hurricane Katrina hit, what was the main area that got hit? It was over there in New Orleans, Louisiana, where it's heavily population of what? So-called Haitians, Levi. All right. And so the Lord is doing these things because of the wickedness that Levi has done. Because as we know, their job is to be the priest of the Most High. All right, to bring righteousness, to show Jacob righteousness. But what we see in today's time, all right, is they're into all manners of witchcraft, dealing with that voodoo. You know, different. You got what they call white magic, black magic, voodoo. You know, different manners of what they want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's all witchcraft, man. All right, and they got that witchcraft specifically when they were when we were in Africa fleeing 70 AD, that Roman persecution. This is where they began to pick up those Hamitic customs, which involved, the worship of these different idols and spirits and shit, man.
I can preach that for you.
Y'all got it.
Con. This is Malachi chapter 2. And also to mention, it says the earthquakes, the hurricanes, and the floods. Haiti is also plagued with civil war. They can't even, get along with each other. But this is Malachi.
Start at 1 and go down to 8.
Con. This is Malachi chapter 2 and verse 1. And the subtitle says, "Priest to be disciplined." It says, "And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. If ye will not hear, and if ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, saith the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Ye have cursed them already, because ye do not lay it to heart."
Right, and what's the curse that we're talking about, man? These different, judgments that keep befalling Haiti, because it's like, it just keeps happening over and over and over again. Like Tazwan said, man, when they thought they're good, they try to rebuild a little bit, and the Lord hits them with something else, man. It's because of the wickedness that you Jakes are doing, and because it's like you're getting hit hard like that because your duty, all right, as being the priest of the Most High, you took that duty and you're using it on the left hand now, man. So what the warning that the Lord is giving unto you so-called Haitians that might come across this video is for you to repent, man. Put that voodoo and shit down, man. All right, put that Catholicism down. Come back into the true power whose name is Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, man. Otherwise, you're gonna be destroyed, man.
It's almost like brothers that pretty much have other siblings, and if you have the older brother that messes up, the parents will hit the older brother more because he should know better.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? The younger brother, he gets his ass whooped too, but the older one gets the worst ass whooping because he should know better. It's the same way he's doing to Levi because they should know better. They're the priests. They're supposed to be into the law. They're supposed to be forwarding the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua.
Because as we go into the duties of the priest, they were a very, very spiritual people, and they still are. But they're tapping into the spirit on the left hand, which is why you see them like the brother Tazwan has showed me this video a couple of years ago, where they're over there like what they like smoking something, and they end up getting possessed and doing all this bugged out shit.
Yeah, it was a priestess in Brooklyn, and she was basically conjuring spirits, and she was taking on the spirits. Then they would pretty much use that for like prosperity and things like that. She was smoking on a cigarette backwards, dancing on fire, all type of crazy shit.
And this is what the brother Yawam just read. He said he was gonna send a curse. He will curse your blessing. They're doing this witchcraft for prosperity reasons, and the Lord is sending demons on them even more, to the point to where now they're so ingrained into that witchcraft that they're becoming cannibal now, man, over there in Haiti. You got it.
God, if I may add too, Priest, we seen that rapper from Philadelphia. It's a growing circuit of that voodoo culture in Philly too. And just, considering how the Lord is plaguing, Haiti, New Orleans, like a lot of areas where, you have that population of Levites. You have out in Philly, you have this place called Kensington, and how it's like a bunch of people on needles and things like that out there. But you have a growing culture of that priesthood that's growing in that part of Philadelphia.
That's right.
So just considering that too, like the Lord is hitting these priests, the Levites hard.
All right. Matter of fact, you want to hold that? Go to hold on, let me go to my notes. Go to Deuteronomy 18 and read 10 through 12.
God, this is Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 10. It says, "There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth the divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy power doeth drive them out from before thee."
Right, now here it is. This was something the priests back then was teaching our people to abstain from, and we see in today's time that they're heavily influenced in doing that. Now, I want to read this from this Medium article dealing with the tribe of Levi, because, like I said earlier, that mainly got taught to our people during the time when we were intermingled amongst them Hamites. So it says many portions of Africa were strong with spiritualism resembling the God of the Hebrews because of these African Israelite kingdoms. These Judite kingdoms that had been established between the 1st and up to 15th century AD flourished before being decimated by the transatlantic slave trade. Unfortunately, these exiled Levites in Africa mixed the law of Moses along with African tribes and their African gods, creating something new that will be known as Voodoo or Voodoo. It says Voodoo, meaning spirit in the Fon and Iwe languages, currently dates back to the early 18th century AD among the Aruba people, although the use of fetches or charms date back even earlier and were used widely throughout northern and southern Guinea. The ideas of Voodoo or Voodoo have been extremely exaggerated via Hollywood, showing an extreme overall ignorance in this religion. Voodoo has many comparisons to Judaism or Christianity, and it goes into a couple examples. Both believe in a supreme being. The lower resemble Christian saints in that they were once people who led exceptional lives and were usually given a single responsibility or a special attribute. Both believe in an afterlife. Both have, as the centerpiece of some of their ceremonies, a ritual sacrifice or consumption of flesh and blood. Both believe in the existence of invisible evil spirits or demons. Followers of Voodoo believe that each person has a Metet or a master of the head, which corresponds to a Christian's patron saint. In Voodoo, there are a pantheon of spirits that are worshipped according to what is needed, achieving Sango, a spirit of storms, Aza, protector, etc. Whether it is white or black magic being protected, this is extremely forbidden by Yahweh. All right. So just showing you that even though they're trying to, make it sound like, well, this isn't evil magic, it's white magic. It's not bad. Witchcraft is witchcraft, man. It's all off because the Lord, what we just read in the law, or what your woman just read, he forbade all that, man. All right. And another thing I want to get to, grab Ecclesiastes, Exodus 20, and read like 1 through 3, to showing you that shit is off, regardless of where you claim of good intentions or whatever. That's wicked, man.
God, this is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. It says, "And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou
Mhm.
shalt have no other gods before me.
Right. So that right there shows you that that shit's off. Because as it said in Voodoo or Voodoo, there's a pantheon of spirits to be worshipped. No, we're only supposed to worship one spirit, which is Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai, man. So you're making idols out of these different spirits, man. You know, which is why when you see these Levites do their shit, you know, you got those people down in Miami, Florida, call themselves Zopound with zombies on Earth. Them niggas is wicked as hell too. You know, because when you see going back to that Deuteronomy or sorry, that Genesis 49, it talks about the instruments of their cruelty. You know, go back to that real quick, Bible Shah.
Con.
It was like verse 7 of verse 5.
Oh yeah, con.
Yeah, it said the instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. They're known. The so-called Haitians are known as a wild people. That's why I say
Mm-hmm.
you see them Zoes down there with them crazy ass dreadlocks, look like
Mm-hmm.
fucking Simpson logos and shit. You know, they into that voodoo shit heavy, man. They be wearing the little the prayer beads and all that different type of shit. That's heavy witchcraft amongst them, and they worship the dead, man. You know, so
Mhm.
just showing you they still have their spiritual ties to them, but they're more inclined to the left hand, which is why Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is judging them the way that we see. Okay.
Yep.
Also, one more. Get Jeremiah 10, 1 and 2, Bible Kushah.
Con, this is Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 1. And it says, Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
Right. So this is why at the end of the day, the Lord he told us that we were a holy people. That word holy goes into separate because we were consecrated to the Lord by the law, statute, commandments to separate us from the idolatrous and wicked works of the heathen. So when we were intermingled amongst the different heathens, specifically Ham, our people picked up on these different traditions. Like for example, dealing with the music. Okay, when you look back at ancient Israelite music, we dealt with string instruments. Like for example, with David, when King David would play the harp for Saul, the string music that's more of a spiritual music which helps soothe the spirit and ward off demons. When Jake started to implement the drums into our music, they got that shit from Ham, and them drums they conjure spirits, man. Which is why you see like the rap music, drill music, and all that shit is heavy, heavy drums, the 808s and all that shit. They that shit comes from Ham. Okay. Now you do have things that we do that for, like you have the war drums and all that, but that's you hear what I just said, war drums. It was a spirit that comes with that, man. You know, so just showing you the traits that we picked up from the heathen that corrupted our people, man.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing out, it says, For the heathen are dismayed at them. I'm going to keep going to verse 3. It says, For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe.
Yeah, the main part being the custom of the people are vain because when you go into the customs of what Levi has adapted to themselves, is empty, is wicked. Because when you going back to dealing with the land of Haiti, they're governed really through four religions, and those four religions are Voodoo, Freemasonry, Catholicism, and Protestant. But when you look at it, they're all pretty much witchcraft, man. Because when you look like the difference between you got like Voodoo and Catholicism, it's essentially worshiping the same. All right, it's still witchcraft. Okay, because just like give an example, Catholicism they worship the Queen of Heaven, which is idolatry, man. All right, so when you see a lot of those them Haitians and even Simeon, they're heavy into the Catholic Church, man, which is the promotion of Mary. A lot of those Haitians when they do their rituals, they say that they're trying to conjure up, Mother Mary, which to them is a white woman. So it shows you they all off, man. You know. But it's showing you the woman worship was not in our culture, man. You know, because a lot of you, you know, will hear that and get mad. Just want to read this real quick, just to cut that. Luke 11:27. And it came to pass as he spake these things, a certain woman of the company lifted up her voice and said unto him, Blessed is the womb that bare thee, and the paps which thou hast sucked. And it says, but he said that he being Yahweh yea, rather blessed are they that hear the word of Yahweh and keep it. So Yahweh cut that woman worship shit quick, because there's nothing in our culture that, you know, lifts up the woman. All right, you know, the women that brought forth, you know, the different men of the Lord, you know, they were chosen by the Lord, but they weren't, you know, special to be worshipped though, man. Okay, because we know the Lord deals with the men at the end of the day. All right, so we can go back.
Okay. It's Malachi Malachi chapter 2 and verse 3. And it says, Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feast, and one shall take you away with it. And ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts.
Because
My covenant.
at the end of the day, the judgments are coming upon you because you broke that covenant with the Lord, man. You know, you're supposed to be joined unto the Lord. Now Levi is joined unto idols.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 5.
And it's funny, it says he will spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn assemblies. Because like we mentioned earlier, they're over there literally eating shit. Mud pies, man.
Verse 5. It says, My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name.
Mm-hmm.
The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to, join unto me. Levi, he was joined unto the Lord, you see, and then Levi also, joined Israel to the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
But it says, verse 7, For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts.
Right, and you see now that that's the furthest thing away when you look at, you know, the tribe of Levi now, because just giving the examples to show you that that's not happening no more. Little Wayne, I believe, is he's a Levi. He's so-called Haitian. Look at the influence that he caused upon Jake in his, you know, his run in hip hop. He's the reason. He's one of the reasons. Yeah, he's one of the reasons people have tattoos from their forehead down to their feet. He's the reason why you got a lot of these niggas wearing these goddamn skinny ass jeans, you know, dressing like women and shit, man, with the dreadlocks and all that. Kodak Black, you know, different niggas like them, man. You know, there's no knowledge being, you know, shed from them dudes, man. You know, just to give a couple examples.
Verse 8, But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, said the Lord of hosts.
Right, which is why at the end of the day, the Lord ended up, you know, bringing Yahushua down, and, you know, eventually making the priesthood open to all the nations, man. Which is why now, going back to verse 7, it says, "For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts." That is now the position that we're all in, man. Because now technically we're all considered priests, man. All right, and as we are bringing our people back unto the Lord, all right, we have stepped into that role as priests, as we're seeing the priesthood that has been rebuilt in the earth, all right, through the elect.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 9, Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law.
Right, you know, and that was pretty much the point. Just showing that, look, this is why you Levites are in this position that you're in now, because of your disobedience, man. All right. So the
Me,
Lord is going to continue to allow Esau to fuck you up. It's like y'all got it. Whoever was talking.
did you want the NLT?
If there's something in there, go ahead.
God says NLT Malachi 2 and 9, it says, So I made you despised and humiliated in the eyes of all the people. For you have not obeyed me, but have shown favoritism in the way you carry out my instructions.
Man, and look at that. Hey, Haitians are looked on with disgust. Especially you look over in that land. Nobody wants to go to vacation to Haiti, man. All right,
Man, remember they was saying when them niggas was coming over that they was biting people, they was eating people.
they're eating dogs and all that. Yeah, man,
Right.
you made a laughing stock, man. People are afraid to leave. Hey, I remember when I was in Miami and we was at this club and it was Haitian night. It was like, yo, the vibe was real eerie because everybody was looking around like, yo, what the fuck is what's about to happen, bro? Because they got a vibe. It's a stigma with them. It's like, yo, these niggas is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, it is. It's definitely an energy around them niggas.
You know, they especially the women. They said the women are supposed to be like highly spiritual, but them bitches be witches, man.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker put a root on you or something.
They be walking around with that voodoo black magic.
Hell yeah! Hey, like I said, they be having the waist beads. Fuck around, you got them go to get in the shower, fucking pubic hair be in the tub. She take that shit, and put it on a doll, and now you wondering why your feet keep feeling like you getting stabbed and shit, man. She poking you with a damn needle or something with the voodoo doll.
God damn.
Heavy shit, man. But y'all got it though. Go ahead.
God, I got a precept if I may. This is Isaiah 5 and verse 1. It says, "Now I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved had a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein, and he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes." Right, so that choicest vine is supposed to be you, Jakes. And speaking about just Levi, Levi is supposed to be, that just his name on his own, join unto me. It's supposed to be, that choicest vine, man. But it says it brought forth wild grapes. I mean, look at Levi now. Since it's speaking about Levi, look at Levi now. It's wild, man.
Mm-hmm.
Way out there. But it says, verse 3, "And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have done in it, that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes. And now, go to, I tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down." So that's the reason why, Haiti is getting, or Levi is getting hit with all them goddamn natural disasters.
Yep.
All the civil war, the constant conflict between the Dominican Republic and Haiti, right? Them having a shy economy. All these things is all curses because of the great deviation that Levi went into, man.
Right.
Verse 6, it says, "And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that there should not rain, no rain upon it." So yeah, that's pretty much it though. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the reason why Haiti is now known as like the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Facts. Also, too, it talks about how it said, "I will command the cloud that they rain no rain upon it," because that's what they're over there, lost in that voodoo, man. They don't have any wisdom, knowledge, or understanding of the Lord, man. All right, while the Lord is calling the elect out of the so-called Haitians, man. So it is, brothers waking up, all right, that are calling themselves so-called Haitians, but now know that they come from the tribe of Levi and are actively trying to repent. Because like I made mention earlier, that nigga Kodak Black, he knows he's a Levite.
Mm-hmm.
It's been on record many times of him saying that, man. There was an interview with Wyclef Jean, and he was sitting there talking about how Kodak was going around, teaching Haitians that they're Levites, man. But there's no, he doesn't have the spirit, which is why you see that nigga is plagued by, you know, all type of demons with them drugs and shit, man. He's trying to tap into that, but the Lord is blocking him. You know, so it's imperative for you you brothers that, you know, are hearing this word and it's doing something to your spirit, man. Hey, repent, man. Come back unto the Lord before it's too late, while the doors of mercy are still open, man.
Con.
I had something very quick, if I may. You know, just land backing on that point. You know, the doors of mercy is open. As you can see clear as day, everything that Levi has tapped into, the deities, the false idols that they serve, is to no avail. You know, it's really damned you to the point where, like you had said, priest, at the beginning of the lesson, you're subject to so much debt that you will not be free from that debt ever.
Nope.
You're not going to see any progression in your societies. You're not going to see any progression in your economy, and your status in the world is shunned. Like, you are seen as a fucking zombie. That's the connotation that's placed on you Levites, right? Because of how far you fell away, right? And with the Lord coming back, like the brother priest has said, you know, this should move you to repent, right? So that you can have the favor of the Lord that you were rightly bestowed. Again, as going into the Hebrew, lawyer, right? Joined unto me. That's a heavy title of the tribes, man. But I wanted to grab something right quick, just going into the desecration of the nation, specifically Levi, as we have read Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 5 about the vineyard and that choice grape. This is Joel chapter 2 and verse 25. And I will restore you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you, right? And that's speaking of the nations, man. The Lord has sent these nations on us, right? And they completely destroyed us, you see? But now we're in that time of restoration. Now we're in that time where the Lord has given us back this breath, right? This truth, so that we can step back into the steed that we once held in the earth, right? As Yasharallah, right? Yashawan, upright.
Mm-hmm. Con. Should I get one of the other articles I got, or did any brother got anything else?
You got it, brother. Spirit on you.
Con. You know, since the brother mentioned, brother Tazan mentioned, you know, that debt. You know, I got this right here. Hold on, Salakia. It says, Haiti's forced payments to enslavers cost economy $21 billion. This is a New York Times found. So $21 billion is what they owe, is what they're paying pretty much to France in reparations. But it says it was big news in the U.S. when enslaved people in Haiti rose up and wrested their freedom from France in 1791. Haiti was founded as an independent nation in 1804, striking such fear in the hearts of American enslavers that the U.S. did not officially recognize Haiti until 1862, after the start of the Civil War. So even the United States didn't take Haiti serious, man. Because you already know, you know, Esau pretty much had some plans of getting y'all, you know, back under subjection.
Facts.
But, you know, that just shows you, you know, that form of subjection was through them through them reparations.
Yeah, because what sense does that make? You said you're declared an independent nation, but you have to pay reparations
Right.
to the people that enslaved you. So you're really not free. You're really not independent.
Mm-hmm.
Nah. What the scriptures say, the borrower is
Subject to
servant to the lender. Even though they didn't borrow money, in a sense they put a debt on you, which makes you pretty pretty much a slave, a servant.
Yep.
But it says, what happened next is less likely. I mean, so like, what happened next is less well known in the U.S. today. 2 decades after declaring independence, the French forced formerly enslaved Haitians at gunpoint to pay reparations to the people who had enslaved them. It says reporters of the New York Times tracked each payment Haiti made over the course of 64 years. So it's 64 years, and you already know Esau be, with that usury, continuing to rack up even more and more. And then with the crash of, well, I don't know about crash, but like the fall of the Haitian economy, it just made it even worse. But it says,
to add to that, that hurricane decimated that land, and yet that shit didn't go down. They still owe. They still got to pay.
Yeah, rent still due. But it says, and calculated that the nation paid about $560 million in today's dollars to satisfy this ransom, and the loans they were forced to take to pay it. Damn.
Shit,
that's like using a credit card to pay another credit card.
Right.
But it says, for generations, Haiti's revenue went to service its double debt, deprived its people of schools, hospitals, and basic infrastructure, pushing the country into a cycle of debt, poverty, and underdevelopment that persists today.
Man.
It says, and when we read earlier, Haiti used to be one of Esau's top colonies that made the most money. But now look at it.
And
it's wasted away,
sense.
man.
Then that makes sense why they mad, which is why they're doing them like that. Because they one thing with Esau, they'll preach that bullshit, forgive and forget. He does neither. And he'll constantly remind you, as we see 9/11, remember 9/11, remember Pearl Harbor, the Hollow Hoax and everything else, man. Hey, this devil, he won't take that shit sitting down, man. So these are all just a reminder. This is what y'all wanted. Well, here's what's coming from that.
That's that Ezekiel 35, that perpetual hatred, man.
Exactly.
Esau, he's the what should I say? How should I put it? He's pretty much the example of holding a grudge.
Right. Because if Esau was a righteous man, then he would honor this law right here. This is Deuteronomy chapter 15:1. At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. This is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it on his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Now jumping down to verse 7, it says, if there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land, which the Lord thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, nor shut up thy hand from the poor brother. Are we not supposed to be Esau's brother? But you see what they're doing. If they was applying the law, then they would allow those Levites to be able to come out of that hole that they put them in. Yet Esau was making them go further and further, which is like what Tazwan said. Until Yahushua returns, you're never getting out of that, man. It's just going to get, that condition is just going to worsen and worsen.
Yep. I read something off this AI overview real fast. Okay. It says Haiti is currently experiencing a profound and protracted crisis, which many describe as a societal collapse. This crisis is marked by several interconnected issues: political instability, gang violence and control, humanitarian crisis, breakdown of social fabric. It says political corruption, elite influence, national disasters, lack of effective solutions. It says, in summary, Haiti is facing a complex and challenging situation characterized by extreme violence, political instability, widespread widespread poverty and deteriorating humanitarian crisis. This the influence and actions of armed gangs, coupled with institutional weaknesses, have contributed to a breakdown of essential services and unraveling of the country's social fabric. So pretty much they're in a constant state of societal collapse. With the with this debt being held over their head. That 21 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much tied into Malachi chapter 2 and verse 9. It says, therefore I have also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. In the NLT it reads, it says, so I have made you despised and humiliated in the eyes of all the people, for you have not obeyed me, but have shown favoritism in the way you carry out my instructions. So pretty much they just said that it's like a continuous state of societal collapse and being base and low. And pretty much it's going to be like that until the Lord returns, like you had mentioned, priest.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and I looked this up too. The average wage in Haiti, right? It says the average monthly salary in Haiti for formal sector workers is about 150 to 200 US dollars.
God damn.
That's wild.
What the fuck?
Damn.
That shit's insane.
Yeah.
Whew.
That's crazy.
The annual income per capita is 1,760 US dollars. Man.
We need to
Yo,
live
that 21 billion is never going to get paid.
Hell no.
That's insane.
Like you said, the borrower is subject to the lender, man. That's how Esau was able to accumulate this world wealth, through him pretty much putting the world in debt and then issuing usury, but then not upholding the year of release, man. The year of Jubilee. That's how you were able to pretty much not enslave the world. Because when we have the rulership, nations, you can give loans out, but you're supposed to allow after 7 years that loan to pretty much go away, so you can give that person time to get back on their feet. Esau is just continually just hitting you over the head with more and more and more to where you're just done.
Mm-hmm. Perpetual slave.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go ahead and skip to this last article. Pretty much going into some history as far as the slave time over there in Haiti. But it says Haiti is an independent nation in the Caribbean that occupies the western part of the island of Hispaniola, with the Dominican Republic to the east. The island was initially claimed by Spain. Let me skip down a little bit because we already read this, some like this in the Wikipedia page. But it says, under French rule, Saint-Domingue grew to be the wealthiest colony in the French Empire and perhaps the richest colony in the world. Shortly before the Haitian Revolution, Saint-Domingue produced roughly 40% of the sugar and 60% of coffee imported to Europe. It says the colonial economy of Saint-Domingue was based almost entirely on the product of plantation crops for export. Enslaved African workers grew sugar in the northern plains around Cap Francois, for example, and coffee in the mountainous interior. The slave system of Saint-Domingue was regarded as one of the harshest of the Americas. So they were whooping Jake's ass, man. It says, and I read this before too, how Jake was dying more rapidly than they could fill the positions.
Damn.
But it says, with high levels of both mortality and violence. To supply the plantation system, French owners imported almost 800,000 Africans to the colony, which by comparison is almost double the number of Africans carried to North America. Man, look at it now. It's a very low population over there.
I have precept going into that if I can. It's Bon Sirach 13, and we get verse 4. Verse 3, it says, the rich man hath done wrong, and yet he threateneth withal. the poor is wronged, and he must entreat also. Pretty much, Jake, in that situation that essentially I believe they was defending themselves, and they still got to pay reparation to the French. Verse 4, it says, "If thou be for his profit, he will use thee." So at a certain point in time, during the time period of the golden age of piracy, you had down in the Caribbean, like we going into, pretty much, they would use whether it was Haiti or the islands in the greater and lesser Antilles, they was pretty much using those areas, but they had a lot of Jake there. Verse 4 says, "If thou be for his profit," pretty much he was using Jake for profit. "If thou be for his profit, he will use thee, but if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee." And pretty much at this point, Haiti is forsaken.
What chapter was that?
Montserrat 13 and 3-4.
Go to 12, and it should be like the latter part of that chapter where it talks about when adversity is there, you should find him there first. Speak on that because just going into the fact of going back to what Tazwan had said earlier about the earthquake, the so-called humanitarian aid that America was supposed to give to them. It's ironic that they were the first ones to come help them. Go ahead.
You know specifically what verse it was, or you want me to skip down to verse 12?
Let me go to it real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Verse 17.
Okay. Montserrat 13 and 17.
I should start with 16 and then go to 17.
You said go to 16?
Con and read down.
Con, this is Montserrat 13 and verse 16 says, "All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will."
Salaki, 12 and 16. Salaki, that's
12. Okay. This is Montserrat 12 and verse 16. It says, "An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit."
Right, and we can look at that what the brother just read. Here it is. They fought for their independence. Now, according to how things are supposed to work in a righteous society, you won your independence. That means that you're free from that said oppressor. So Esau was like, "All right, I'll give you that, but now you owe me money." And look at the results of that, because as you read earlier, it said that how you say it, Saint Donahue.
Yeah, Domingue.
Domingue was regarded as was one of the highest, with richest lands. And as soon as Esau got his ass whooped, and they decided they wanted to, teach them a lesson, they went from the richest colony in the world to the poorest. But this is what happened when you trust the words of this devil. Like when you watch that movie Amistad, it showed you that perfectly too. Go ahead.
Montserrat 12 and verse 16, the latter says, "But in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood."
Right. So as we see, they're constantly finding ways to pretty much put more hell on you so-called Haitians. Go ahead.
"If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee."
Now, I wanted to bring it out because, it's been said and somewhat proven that earthquake that happened to them was manufactured by Esau's heart machine. So Esau, as we know, has the power to control the weather and do these different things. Ultimately, it was the judgment of the Lord. Now, either way, it just shows you that they did that for their own nefarious purposes. So as we went into, they a lot of organ and child trafficking, amongst other stuff that they were able to capitalize off of that disaster, as they continue to do everywhere in the world. So it's showing you that this man's the devil, man. You got
Right. What does the scripture say? That how's it go? The wicked is the sword of the Lord, something like that.
Yeah, Psalm 17 and 13.
Con. Just showing you, even if Esau did use a heart machine, which I believe they did, ultimately it was the Lord, bringing judgment upon him.
Exactly.
That's pretty much it, though. I also got this just real quick, just because I mentioned this. Just from the AI overview, it says yes, the death rate among enslaved people in Haiti, then known as Saint Domingue, was extremely high, and historical records indicate that it often exceeded the birth rate.
Damn.
This meant that enslavers continually had to import new enslaved individuals from Africa to maintain their labor force.
Damn.
Yo, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And it gives a list of stuff like brutal conditions, disease, low birth rates.
Yeah, we can pretty much extrapolate that was Judah and Benjamin up in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Judah's everywhere,
Right.
so Southern Kingdom altogether.
Yeah. Kind of. That's pretty much it. That's all I had, bro.
Okay, that's everything I had. You gotta close it.
Conway, Adawan Tazaza Banaya Paulo, that was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa Adawan Taza Adam Yash Laila Tawab, Lord's will, you have a good night. Or we can go ahead and close it out by saying Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Jai Bahasham Wahadash. While double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us his truth and rule well. Much respect to you, bros, that they're pushing his truth with all righteousness and sincere. Shalom, shalom.
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 Laila Tawab.
Shalom.